Now they're sitting on real estate they paid $3.6 million for that's worth 1.8.
In the last 5, 6, 7 years, I've personally been really struggling with investments. The middle class housing and the fast track program and the MLI Select on a 50-year M, I'm like, it still doesn't pencil to me. But how are people doing it?
I think it's a bit back to what we talked about before with housing, right? Which is everybody starts talking about it and thinks it's the right way to do it. We had a guy in our world, he'd come to me and say, oh man, I should do this. Well, okay, maybe you should. He's like, yeah, I go to soccer and I talk to this guy at soccer and he's building spec houses and he makes whatever and he hardly works. Oh, it looks really good. Okay, sure it will. Until it doesn't. I've been saying it for probably 7 years, maybe even longer, 2018, 2019. It's just saying that the fundamentals are wrong. And when somebody that works here and makes a decent living can't afford to buy a home here, something eventually has to give. And I think, the whole COVID and all the extra money that came into the economy through the government at that point in time extended it for a couple of years. We can see it snapped, right? It's broken. And most people in the industry, you guys too, weren't here in 2008. And you certainly weren't here in 2003 or 98. People have forgotten that there is always this major correction that happens because of momentum. When everybody's doing something, we all want to do it. And it's hard to say no when it's not. So what you're saying, which is when all your friends are buying houses and flipping them to a year later and making a buck, those are some of those guys that were so smart. They bought one and they flipped it. They bought two and they flipped it. Now they bought three and they can't sell it. And now they're sitting on real estate they paid $3.6 million for that's worth 1.8. That's why there's all these signs around town. And, back to what I said before, the math doesn't work. The bigger problem I think we have now in the scope of the market is that when I first started, especially, land cost was probably 30 to 40% of a deal. Taxes are now 30 to 40% of a deal. And I'm talking municipal and DCCs and PST and GST and all of these things. And the land has come down to being in the 10 or 15% range. So even if I could buy the land at half the price it used to be, it still doesn't pencil because it's still not enough to get a margin. When it was 30% and the price could come down to 15%, there's 15% margin, great, I can move that project. But if it's tight and you're going from 4 or 5% to 12, it's still not enough to move the needle.